All right, Tammy, Scarlett, welcome to Empower Network TV. Tools, totems, and tales. This is going to be fun.
Thank you very much, Amos.
People need to hear your story. So if you're okay, let's just jump into this. Like if you want to just hit it, because this will capture their attention.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, let's say I'm to just start back 11 years ago, kind of where my journey started. Okay, I was married, 2 children, typical lifestyle, typical life. I lived in a small town in British Columbia. And, you start to push reality to the side because it looks ugly and you don't want to look at it. So my marriage was falling apart, and it took somebody to come to my door and knock on my door and tell me that my husband was having an affair. And this person I didn't really know very well, but they were tied into the family with my daughter's best friend. So it was just a very strange, what's going on? So after that, lived, like I said, in a very small town, and knew everybody. I'd worked in the town for 15 years prior, and worked at a grocery store. So of course, everybody knows your name and knows your face. And the situation with my ex happened within that environment. And so everybody knew, a lot of people knew, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people knew and did not tell me. So after that, I just went into the hermit mode and just really was looking at myself and trying to figure out, what can I do? I'm going forward here. At the time I was unemployed. We just moved into a new home. Like things were supposed to, they look good on the outside, but they weren't good. So I kept to myself. I did not tell anybody. I didn't tell my friends or anything that we had split up until he had finally moved out, which was a year later. Because in our country, we have to make sure that we do the full year to decide whether you're going to get a divorce or not. So I did that, and it was not a good idea. Ultimately, to not speak with somebody, I ended up with breast cancer. So at that time, I was still not really being forthright with people because I didn't feel like I could trust anybody. I felt alone. I felt just humiliated. And I came down with the diagnosis, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to tell somebody something. I can't keep this to myself. And so after, going through all the testing and all this stuff on my own without speaking to anybody, which is absolutely crazy. I never recommend that to anybody. If you got something wrong with you, speak up. So I feel like, the cancer I had was a more rare kind, triple negative, it's called. And, you start to wonder, like, how did I get this? What happened? How did it happen to me? And I started to take a good look at myself, and, it wasn't hereditary. It wasn't environmental that I knew of. So it had to come from inside. So I got myself a book, and it's called Real Love by Greg Bear, which set me on the path of, not blaming other people and more looking at myself. And so I went through all the cancer treatments, and had to actually live with my ex at the time, which was not a very good healing modality either. But that came to pass, and I learned a lot of things having to do that, and went on my way and finished my treatments, and had the full reconstruction done. And from there, I went to, I was still not really living inside my body. I was, numb. I'd had a lot of physical injuries and traumas and things prior in my life. And that's a whole nother 3 interviews, I'm sure. So from there, I went to Peru after my cancer treatment as a sort of a reward sort of idea, and fell off a bicycle when I was there and broke my ribs. And I was going there for a trek, like a walking trek. So it was like 73 kilometers, I believe. And I figured I'd gone through all that stuff and I'd gone all that way. I wasn't going to just not do it. So again, I didn't tell anybody. I just showed them my bruise on my leg and continued on. And I'd broken some ribs. So went through the trek, and it was amazing. Oh my gosh, if anybody ever gets to go there, I highly recommend. The Salcante trek is what I did, and it was highly amazing. I had one of my most pivotal moments of my life at that time, climbing the mountain, like you actually, ascend a mountain. And when I got to the top and I wasn't the last person up, and had been encouraging people the whole way, I'm like, there's got to be something more to this than, now what do I do, right? I'm finished my treatments and all that stuff. So I came home and became a life coach, took a bunch of schooling. And then next I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? And I became an energy healing practitioner. COVID didn't let me finish that certification. The course actually had to close because of COVID. So then COVID, of course, gives me a lot more time to sit and, work on my programs and work on myself and my health. And I was doing really great. Everything was wonderful. I moved like quite a few times around, just trying to settle and figure out what to do. And then the rupture happened, and that put me out of commission. Probably the worst thing that has happened to me, far worse than the cancer and the treatments that I've gone through. You go through cancer and treatments, and you get chemo brain and, surgeries and things like that. And this poisoning took me right back to chemo brain. And still now my brain's a little bit sticky, but I still managed to try and go with, listening to the higher. It can't come from inside my head. It has to come from elsewhere, because my head sometimes isn't completely fog free. So I had the surgery to have the implants removed, and now I'm a flatter girl, which is fine with me. That's another thing you have to go through in the end, right? Losing my breasts, not just once, but twice. And, coming to terms with that. And I was single because my marriage had broken up, and it was just a whole bunch of things. You just keep going until something, clicks and makes you feel like you're on the right path. And this is definitely it. I've been working on this, putting together these different courses, just with everything that I went through myself. And I would not, stick something out there into the world if I didn't think it would be helpful. And I know because I'm there. I'm that person, right? I'm living it. So the proof is in me sitting here speaking to you, healthy, happy. I actually had to go on a disability because I couldn't do anything. I was in bed seriously for almost 4 years. It was terrible. But every day still improving. And that's where I am now. And coming up actually this week on Friday, I'm going to be hosting my very first paid live workshop. And I'm super excited about it. And I guess that's about it.
How did you get from, because that's a lot.
Yes.
When you went and did that trek and climbed that mountain, sounds like you've been climbing mountains a lot in the last decade.
Yes.
How did you learn the resilience? Like, if you had no one you were sharing with, where did you find the strength to go on?
I would guess it's from my childhood, from my past. I mean, I had a kind of a tumultuous childhood. I had, a family that was not kind and loving all the time, like stepfather and that kind of thing. So you sort of learn to be yourself. And then through other challenges, being bullied for a few years in high school and things like that, you just, I think I was always the go-to person for other people. I'm the eldest grandchild. I'm the eldest with my siblings. But I don't know, I always felt like I was the person people would come to. So I always what advice would I give them and take it for myself?
I'm really curious about the mindset, like how you've learned to overcome, because the things you're talking about are not easy. Like that, that kind of betrayal is tough. That kind of surgery is tough twice.
Yes.
What did you learn going through that?
Well, ultimately, I suppose everything that happened can be traced back to myself, and being accepting of the blame. Um, that's where it starts with, and then you got to forgive yourself, right? Do the best you can, and if you're doing the best you can, what else is there? You can't be hard on yourself about that. You just do the best you can with what you got when you got it, and keep going. There's, a couple dark nights of the soul in there. I'm not saying there isn't, and it wasn't always pretty. But like I said, the tools that I used, I started, I read that book, and that really got my brain thinking in a different way. And then started with like meditations and listening to CDs, mostly about self love. Getting into a yoga practice. What else do I have? Journaling. I really looked inside myself at all the different things. If I was going to be blamed for all my choices that I'd made in my life and things that led me to where I'm sitting here right now, I wanted to have some structure behind it. So I created sort of a worksheet and asked myself all the questions. And, you ask yourself about other people and maybe how they wounded you, or you feel like they wounded you. But then you realize they're wounded too. Hurt people hurt people. And that, I think, is probably the strongest thing I can, that's the strongest thing I embodied, like with my ex, with my stepfather, with the bully, like everything in my life. I see that they have their own stuff, and as everybody does. So finding the way that I could be okay with letting people have their own, garbage, and as long as they didn't, look too closely at mine, it was okay, But now I'm good, and I wanted to be out I wanted to be out helping people. I wanted to get into public. I wanted to be able to speak with anybody, not just women, not just people who had breast cancer, not people who'd been traumatized in their childhood, not people who'd been, physical things, everybody. So it took, if I'm gonna get out here on camera and I'm gonna be speaking with people like yourself, I don't want to have any skeletons in my closet. I don't want to have anything that's going to hurt me or make me feel bad about myself, or can come back to haunt me in any way. So I cleaned that closet. There's nothing. There's nothing. So, I have no fear. And I think that's also a big mindset too, right? Being
Huge.
it,
Yeah.
it started off being fearless, like fearing less, but now I think I'm fearless. I've also had some brushes with death in my past, so I also have a different idea around that too, which is helpful.
Well, let's talk about tools, tools, totems, and tales. Let's go
Okay.
there. So what does that look like? Because you also co-wrote a book. So do you want
Yes,
to talk about, yeah.
the book.
Yeah, and then let's go into tools, totems, and tales.
Okay. Well, the book, it's Women of Worth. It's like a chicken soup for the soul kind of series. I'm in book 6. I think they're up to book 10 or 12 or something now. There's a lot of them. And this was actually a bestseller. So it's pretty exciting. It's about my journey. It's about the healthcare system. It's about after having surgery and stuff, the healthcare system was a lot kinder when I had cancer than when I had the rupture. There wasn't a lot of tools for them to give me, and they just wanted to give me medicine, like prescriptions. And with my past, I'm not going there. And with the way the world is, I'm not going there either. So when COVID came along, it's like, what do you do for yourself if you can't get the medicine? If you can't get those things, what else can you do? So I actually wrote this chapter during COVID, and I really was in that place of I need to do for myself. And I'd written a letter to the implant company because there's a lot of other people in the world especially right at that time, strangely enough, where it was coming out that they were hurting people, harming people, and there needed to be like a voice for that. So that was part of my chapter. Also, it just touches on breast cancer, the implants, my mindset when I was a child, or younger, not a child, but when I was, in my early 20s, somebody had said to me, you could be a supermodel if you had some boobs. Like and that was kind of a crushing thing. It was said in front of a bunch of people and it was crushing. So I always had a less than good relationship with myself in that area. So I wanted people to understand that things that happened in the past and things that how you think about things, come forth in the future. And yeah, with the story, it's just, there's so many people who have breast cancer and the numbers aren't looking much better. That is another thing I'm really hoping to do with the tools. And I want people to be able to find the strength within themselves and, get that crap out of their closet and not have to deal with, maybe not ever have to go through cancer or any other kind of illness, because they're taking the things away that are harming them on the inside chemically with their own chemistry.
Wow. I'm glad you went there. That's it's almost provocative to say it, but thoughts become things, that they become the emotions, they become the feelings, the chemicals in our body, and we produce our own state. So personal responsibility. Wow. You just laid it down. So tools, totems, tails. So can you go a bit more into those, please?
Okay. The tools, one of my most stressful things that I had, at that time when I was trying to catch my ex-husband while I was working on my 1 year of trying to reconcile. I was trying to catch him in his affair, which takes a terrible toll on a body. No sleep. I was mostly in the state of shock. I have been in, clinical shock before, so I knew the symptoms. I was definitely there on more than one occasion. That's, it's not good in your body. And I was having a hard time breathing. And I thought, this is bad. Like, how am I going to breathe? If I don't breathe, I'm going to die. Like, what is this? And I was close to panic, right? That state of, I don't know what to do. I can't breathe. Everything's closing in. And I managed to somehow get out of that. I don't know. I can't even remember what I did at that time. As soon as I was finished, I was on the internet. What do I do for this? And found out about breath work. So I followed Dr. Wheel's breath pattern, which is the 4-7-8. So it's like four inhale, hold for 7, and exhale on 8. It's like the 911 of breath work, I would say. And I used it so many times through all my stuff, like into cancer, through that, waiting to get on a disability, having no money. It's pretty stressful. And I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna preach this one. I'm gonna help people understand that this is super important, because if you have nothing else, if you're not, you always have your breath with you. If there's nothing else, you have that. So, and you can do it anywhere. So pause, breathe, shift was the first step. And that's the main thing that got me going on the totems. So I built a bead set, which I wish I had one right here. I should have been more prepared. I could always quickly grab one if this is going to be edited.
Yeah, grab it. Go for it.
Okay.
Go.
Give me 1 sec. Sorry, I'm sitting on the floor because it's
all good. All good. Tammy's gonna go and grab a bead set so she could show us more of the Hey, tools, totems, tails. She'll be right back.
Okay, so this is one I made for somebody actually. So it's a bead set, basic beads. Every bead means something. The pause, breathe, shift. 3 dots represent pause, just like when you're waiting for somebody to send a message on your text message or whatever. It has the 3 dots. So that was kind of the waiting, right? The pause, the stop and stop. Remember stop, drop, and roll. Stop, look, and listen, right? So it was kind of like that. Like, what are the 3 things I can do? So this particular one, we've got the 3 beads, which are the pause. We've got the one in the middle, which is the breathe, and at the end, it gets bigger. So it's shifting out of one state into another. The bead set, these are the totems, so we can talk about that in a second. But the pause, breathe, shift, I needed to have an actual something in my hand. When I was going to, I'm a terrible person for getting lab work done, needles and things. So having it in my hand, right? You got to squeeze it anyway. So it felt like power. It felt like I had something there and it was helping me. The next thing was the worksheet. So I didn't write down the questions and all that stuff in my, before, and when I was doing it for myself. I had the journal, note pages, just what comes up, write it down. Say even my name. Let's just go with that. Super simple. Like all the questions on there are just super basic life things. And I just wanted to heal in private. I didn't want to have anybody else asking me questions or knowing about my stuff. So I just wrote it all down. I noticed like when you have a trigger for something, say like your name, like my middle name was spelt wrong. My middle name's actually Scarlett. It was spelt wrong and it always bothered me. So that's just one of those little triggers, right? Like, what are the triggers that make you crazy? I'm going to make 2 pages. I'm going to put the negative stuff on one side and the positive stuff on the other side. And right now I'm just working with the positive stuff. The negative stuff, it can go over there and I can worry about it later. I don't have to look at that right now. Let's just stick with the positive stuff. So, it gets really fun because you can, like even just your name, you can research what it means. You can look at the different spellings. You can look at people in history, all the things that make you just a small thing. It's just your name, but it means something. So that was the worksheet. And then after that came, that was tied in with journaling. After that, meditation. I believe highly in meditation and just like relaxing your brain and it doesn't have to be anything really, but just to sit and just even feel what you're feeling. It doesn't even, it doesn't have to be anything dramatic or whatever, but there's so many different kinds of meditations these days and they're simple to grab, right? After that, there was movement. I felt like I had to walk all the time, especially when you have chemo or poison in your body, whichever you want to move and get it out as quick as possible. The next thing is, sorry, I keep looking at my notes because like I said, my brain gets sticky. Sticks and stones are the last one. So sticks is like fire ceremony, works really well when you're, forgiving people or trying to let go of things. Just put it in the fire. I've done a little shaman training also. So that's right up there with that sort of idea. And then the stones is the rocks and the crystals and gems. So like we use on the bead set, every rock and crystal has a meaning and, a healing property. And it doesn't have to be, I have this rose quartz and everybody's going to love me because I have this rose quartz. It's just supposed to represent love to us or whatever. Whatever its individual meaning is the power, where the power lies. So that was those are my tools. It's like my rescue kit. 7 or 8 of those.
I understand that, a rescue kit, because everyone needs a rescue kit at some point in their life too. When the stuff hits the fan, it's like and you can't always think your way through it. Stuff's happened and now you're like, what do you do? So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's just to get yourself out of that state of panic or stress, or because you can't think clearly when you're in those kind of positions, right? You need something to kind of talk yourself down before you can go on. So I like to, but stepping stones are those kind of things for me.
And is there a way, I'll be tagging you in this interview, Tammy. Are there links you have to website stuff? What's that you're doing?
Yes, my website, actually, I'm just in the middle of developing an app, which is super cool. Hopefully it will be ready this weekend. So I don't have that one yet, but I do have a website. It's tammyscarlett.ca.
Tammy
There are
Scarlett.
links.
That's TammyScarlett.ca.
Correct.
Please
Yes,
put
I
that
have
in the
that.
comments after. Put all your links in the comments after, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I have yeah, there's a link for the book also. A link for um I created a program for women with who are newly diagnosed with breast cancer. So I'll share the link with that also. That's a free thing. Um, what else do I have on there? I have some links to some free tools. I've been doing a little bit of a rollout with trying to make different levels of accessibility for people. So there's the free thing that just talks about it and says, this is why I do it. This is why I think maybe you should do it. And that's it. That leaves it in their hands. Then there's a walkthrough. I've got a worksheet walkthrough out right now on Facebook, also on YouTube. So it walks you through the questions of the worksheet. Not with great detail, but just little hints and stuff to help make it easier to fill out the worksheet. And these worksheets are not really for me. If you became my client and I was, we were doing a mentorship program, then I would want to see that. But otherwise, you don't have to share your stuff with anybody, because it's about the man in the mirror, right? It's about how you feel about it, and your own process and how you work through it. That's it. That's it for that one.
Awesome. Well, I would imagine that if women are facing that diagnosis, they would at very least love to connect with you to know that they're not alone, because those kind of diagnoses can feel many, many things. Your world comes crashing down. So to come through what you walk through in the relationship front, and then that front, also stuff from the childhood. If you've been listening, watching Empower Network TV, please reach out to Tammy Scarlett if this resonates with you. She'd love to connect with you. And again, her links will be here. Tammy, thank you for being here at Empower Network TV. It's you have a needed voice. People feel very alone in those moments. And now that you're opening up to talking to others, right? You're going to allow others to come into your space that need to talk to you and that you need to
Yes.
talk to. So that's beautiful, symbiotic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here, Tammy. And thanks everyone for watching. And Tammy, we'll chat soon. I'll shoot you your recordings after this.
Okay. Thank you
Thanks for
so
being
much.
on. Okay. Bye for now.
Okay.